Hello and welcome to the Gift and Home channel. My name is Cinda Baxter. I'm the owner of Details Inc., buying stationery, invitations, and gifts in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're talking about the internet, the big elephant in the room, and how to ride it without falling off. Now, the last segment we talked about how to steer clear of the potholes so you don't step in one of those. This particular one, now we're going to look at the feet in a different way. We're going to see if the shoe fits. Basically, this is about doing your homework and making sure that we've got the right fit for your customer. Now, I'm going to ask you to go back, if you haven't already watched it, and review the Who Are These People Anyway segment, because that's where we really talk about defining your customer, not just in terms of age or education or income, but in terms of their lifestyle. How do they spend their time? Are they listening to CDs or plugging into an iPod? Are they reading the morning paper over a leisurely cup of coffee, or are they surfing the net looking for news? You need to know things about the customer to best determine how they're going to translate what they see online. If you have a customer who's more likely to thumb slowly through the paper, give them more content to read. If it's somebody who's younger and has quick attention span like this, you better have a website that moves quickly too. So rewind and review if you don't recall from that section. Now, before you hire your web designer, or shortly after, but you haven't begun the design process, you want to do some homework to determine what the look's going to be before you start ratcheting up billable hours with your designer. The more information you can bring into that initial meeting, the less expensive the process will be for you, and the better the idea will be that they can work with. There will be a clarity they won't otherwise have. You want to put a file folder together, or a set of folders, to take to the designer for this initial meeting. And in it, you want to write up a profile about the store. Who is the store? What's the store about? What do you sell? Take pictures of the storefront as well as the interior of the store. Bring copies of your letterhead and your business card to give kind of an idea that this is what the store looks and feels like. And then bring in a profile of your customer. Now, those customer feedback cards that we talked about earlier, that's a possible piece to look at. If you've got a focus group that you've worked with, bring information in there. You want to give the designer a pretty good idea of who the audience is going to be. You also want to think about whether or not you want your site to feel sort of like other sites of competitors or vendors that are within your industry, or you want a look that's totally different and off the wall. Let's say, for instance, your client base is young and very, very hip, but most of the stores that are in your market segment tend to go a little bit more traditional. Then, by all means, come up with a really hip, cutting-edge design. It's going to fit your customer better. You want to surf the net and look at a lot of different kinds of websites, not just those within your industry. And you want to look for things you like and for things you don't like. If there's something you see on a site that just bugs the heck out of you, print a copy of the page out and stick it in the folder, circle it with a red pen and say no. You want to print out all the stuff you can of examples of things that are good and things that are bad in your mind, because again, it's going to give your designer a little bit better information to work with. You also want to think about whether or not your site's going to be informational only, or if you're going to be selling online. If you're going to be e-tailing, which is direct sales online, you might want to consider starting small and then building later on. Same with an informational site. You don't have to launch a site that's got 100 pages in it from the get-go. Some do, some don't, but starting small, figuring out what works best, and then continuing to build on that is a lot easier than starting with a 100-page site and realizing it's not at all the way you wanted it to be and having to go back and reinvent the wheel. Look at your competitors' sites. See what they're doing, see what works, see what you don't think works. Don't copy what your competitors are doing because you want your own unique signature that doesn't feel like anybody else. But this is going to give you an indication of what else is out there that your local consumers are taking a peek at. Bring in copies of ads that you've run if you've done any kind of a print campaign or a direct mail campaign. Again, it's going to give the designer an image to follow to get an idea for what kind of work you like. Bring in copies for ads from completely different types of companies. For instance, if you're flipping through Vogue and you see a dress designer does a great ad, that you love it, tear it out, stick it in the folder. Again, it adds that flavor. Decide if you're going to include email as an element. If you're going to participate in any kind of an email campaign, you're probably also going to want to be sure that you've got links on your website for people to sign up for the email newsletter. Also be sure that every page has a link that they can click on to get to an email so they can drop you a line if they have a question. And be sure your phone number is going to appear on every single page as well. Bring a copy of your logo. If you have the original camera-ready art, that's great, but better yet, bring in something that's in color so that the designer can work with that. Remember, no matter what you do, consistency is key. You've got to make sure that your message is clean, crisp, and the same message that you're sending through your print marketing, through your direct mail, and through the things on the shelves in your store. You're branding yourself from the moment you put the sign on the wall over the door, and it's going to carry through all the way to the doorway into your customers' homes. So, again, my name is Cinda Baxter. Thanks for watching, and hang on because the next segment's going to tell you, okay, now that you've got this website, what the heck do you do with it? Thanks a lot.